December the 18th, 2022. 90,000 people are standing and one man is walking toward the only thing he has never held. He has waited 35 years for these 9 steps. But to understand what this moment cost, you have to go back to a boy in Rosario who was told his body would never let him play. This is the story of Lionel Messi. Rosario, Argentina, a working city on the banks of the Paraná. Steel, grain, and football, in roughly that order. Jorge Messi worked long shifts at a steel plant. Celia worked in a workshop making magnets and cleaned houses when there was cleaning to be done. They had 3 children. And then, on the 24th of June, 1987, a 4th. Lionel Andres. He was small. He was so quiet that relatives wondered whether something was wrong. He barely spoke to anyone. And then somebody put a ball in front of him. And the boy who never spoke suddenly didn't need to. His grandmother saw it first. Celia. She took him everywhere. She believed in him before there was anything to believe in. One Sunday, at a dusty little club called Grandoli, the team was a player short. The coach looked at the 4-year-old standing on the touchline and said no, too small. His grandmother did not accept no. So they let him on, and the first time the ball reached his feet, he didn't pass it. He ran, and nobody could take it from him. The parents on the sideline stopped talking. Somebody said it out loud. Whose child is that? By 6, he was at Newell's Old Boys, in a team they called the Machine of 87. In 3 years, they lost almost nothing. At half-time in professional matches, the crowd would stay in their seats, not for the teams, for a small boy juggling an orange. And then, inside a single year, 2 things happened that would decide his entire life. The first was that his grandmother died. He was 11. Since that day, after every goal he has ever scored, he has pointed both hands at the sky. The second was a doctor's office, a growth chart, and a phrase his parents had never heard before: growth hormone deficiency. His body had stopped keeping up with the other boys. The treatment would cost around $900 every month. So every night, Leo took a syringe and injected himself into his own leg. One leg, then the other, alternating. He was 11 years old. He did it himself. His father says he never once complained. For 2 years, Jorge's work insurance covered the cost, and then it stopped. Newell's couldn't pay it. River Plate, the giants of Buenos Aires, wanted the boy. They did not want the bill. And Argentina was sliding into the worst economic collapse in its history. Banks closing, savings vanishing. In the most football-obsessed country on earth, the most gifted child in it could not afford to keep growing. So the family did something desperate. They looked across an ocean. September 2000. A 13-year-old lands in Barcelona for a trial. He is so shy, he can barely answer a question. Then he steps onto the grass, and the sporting director, Carles Rexach, later said he knew inside 10 minutes. But the club hesitated. No European club had ever signed a child from another continent and paid for his medical treatment. Weeks went by. Nobody signed anything. The family began packing to go home. On the 14th of December, 2000. In a tennis club in Barcelona, Rexach ran out of patience. He picked up the only paper on the table, a napkin, and wrote the guarantee on it, in front of witnesses. It is now the most famous napkin in the history of sport. So they moved, all of them. And then, slowly, it came apart. Within months, his mother took his brothers and his sister back to Rosario. Leo stayed in Barcelona with his father. He was 13 years old. Registration rules meant that for a long stretch, he could barely play official matches. So he trained, he injected, he waited, and teammates say that for months he simply didn't speak. And then his body finally caught up with his mind. The 16th of October, 2004, 17 years old, he walks out at the Camp Nou. The 1st of May, 2005, Ronaldinho lifts a pass over the defense, and a 17-year-old chips the goalkeeper. Ronaldinho lifted him onto his shoulders. Look at that photograph again. That isn't a celebration. That's a coronation. 2007. He runs 70 meters through half of Getafe and scores a goal so close to Maradona's that an entire country had to sit down. 2009. Under Pep Guardiola, Barcelona wins 6 trophies in a single calendar year. In Rome, in a Champions League final, the smallest man on the pitch rises above everyone and heads it in. That December, he wins his first Ballon d'Or. Then he wins it again, and again, and again. In 2012, he scores 91 goals in one calendar year, a number nobody has come near since. But there was one shirt where it always ended the same way. 2014, a World Cup final. He walks past the trophy, close enough to touch it, and doesn't look at it. Germany won, Argentina nothing. 2015, beaten in a final. 2016, beaten again, and this time he missed the penalty himself. That night, he told the world he was finished with Argentina. Children walked into the streets of Buenos Aires, holding signs, begging him not to go. He came back. 2021, the Maracanã. Argentina beat Brazil, and a 34-year-old man lies down on the grass and weeps while his teammates lift him into the air. 28 years, his country's first major trophy since he was 6 years old. And then, Qatar. He played every single minute like a man settling a debt. On the 18th of December, 2022, after 120 minutes and a penalty shootout that stopped a nation's heart, Lionel Messi lifted the World Cup. He didn't raise it over his head. He held it against his chest, like something he had been carrying his whole life and had finally been allowed to put down. 4 years later, at 39, he walked out for one more final. Argentina lost, and the stadium stood for him anyway, because by then, the winning had stopped being the point. 8 Ballon d'Ors, a World Cup, more than 800 goals, all of it built by a boy who was told his body wasn't enough. Ask him what he's proudest of, and he doesn't mention a single one of them. He says he never changed. Same quiet voice, same family, same habit. After every goal, both hands to the sky. For a grandmother who once told a coach to let the small boy play, he was too small, too shy, too poor to keep growing, and he became the greatest of all time. Talent is a gift, showing up is a choice. Next week, a boy on a tiny island in the Atlantic, thrown out of school for throwing a chair, who was told he was too weak, too skinny, and too far from anywhere. Subscribe, and you'll be there when Cristiano Ronaldo leaves home at 12.